Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Truth Rebellion. Today I have a guest. Her name is Honey. I see her as an activist for the Iranian people and the diaspora and everybody inside of the country right now during the revolution. And I've watched many of her videos, and she seems to have there's a lot of substance and a lot of passion. You could tell that she really means what she says. So I wanted to get her on the show, and she agreed to come on. She just had a post that got like 600,000 views on Instagram and about Tucker Carlson. So that was really big. And Goldie Gamari actually liked it too, which I thought was really cool. So without further introduction, hey, how are you doing?
Hi, Josh. Hi. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Um, it's been really heartwarming to watch you advocate for Iranians. And I know that not just myself, but so many that I see online engaging with your posts, liking your posts, and I see loads of comments of gratitude um, because you have really been advocating for us. And it's appreciated when I'd say anyone outside of us takes the time to really look at the situation through the lens of Iranians and not just what is put out by the mainstream media. Um, so, yes, thank you. It's much obliged to join you today and my first podcast too.
yeah, yeah, I appreciate that very much. It's very kind of the Iranian people to be so appreciative because they don't really have to be. They're in a position right now where they don't really have to have any kind of nice attitude towards the rest of the world because of what's going on right now. But I've been very surprised how the Iranian people, to me, and what I've come to learn about them during this whole thing, are they're very, like, it's almost like a regal attitude. Like, they're very level-headed, and there's a lot of class there. They're very classy people, but at the same time, they're not too nice either. They're very fiery, very passionate. It's a very interesting thing. You could see how once upon a time there was an empire there because they really have their heads screwed on really straight, for
Yes.
lack of a better way to put it. Um, so yeah, it's been awesome seeing all the people that are so kind, because to me it's almost hard for me to accept everybody being so nice, because it's like I almost feel like I don't even it's hard for me to see how people could even thank me, in a sense, because to me it just feels like it's like
You're
just
being
normal. Yeah, like that's something that should just be accepted by people universally at minimum. Like, it's insane to watch what's happening right now, and for people to even act neutral to it is a little cold and is a little dark, in a sense. But to be all the way on the complete other side of the spectrum of it is insanity to me. It's like a lack of a moral conscience, or at least that's how it seems to be.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a very solitary experience, especially since January, I'd say. But in terms of the gratitude that you are experiencing, I think that's embedded in our culture. If you take an inch for us, we'll take a mile for you. And we're like that with each other. And it's just, it's something cultural that's been passed down for generations. And yeah, but we are very grateful when I think for years, people have watched Iranians be portrayed as something that they're not since the revolution happened. Um, it's been the Islamic Republic that has been this representation of our nation. And it's been extremely frustrating to be portrayed as terrorists or barbaric, illiterate, you know, um, and it's just not who we are at all. So when we see people look at us for what we really are, I think it's a great sense of relief and gratitude. So that's probably what you're experiencing now. And I think that actually through the growth of social media and, tech, we're finally able to show the world who we actually are. I think it's the first time since the revolution that Iranians inside Iran are allowed to speak out. The diaspora has really found their voice. And I think for the first time in a long time, the world, people who want to see are actually being able to distinguish between who we are and who we are being governed and occupied by.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the beautiful things about social media and tech, even though of course the censorship and you get frustrated with a whole lot of like shadow banning and biasness and stuff like that. But even with all that, it has been, I would say, en masse for the entire world. Really, it's been there's been a benefit to it. It's been able to expose a lot of injustices for a lot of groups of people and give a lot of people a voice. So it's a double-sided sword, because I guess at the end of the day, even with censorship and bias, you really can't control people all the way. There's always going to be a way for them to break through and talk. And I agree with you about the way that the Iranian people were portrayed for a long time, because I knew one person inside of Iran like 10 years ago, and I was able to communicate with him, and I knew what he was like, and I knew he was totally different than the radical Islamic jihadist picture of the Iranian people that you get all over media. And that comes from the government, obviously, and whenever you see a picture inside of the country, all you see are women in burqas and people screaming in the streets and Allahu Akbar and all these types of things. And so I knew that he was like that, but I wasn't even aware of how much, like, on mass scale, it's the entire country that is like that. Like, it's really crazy. And now I could see, as I'm sure everybody else can too, how frustrating it would be to be trying to explain to the entire world that it's like someone inside of a car or something going down the side of the street, and they're knocking on the window and they're trying to tell people like, I'm being kidnapped, like somebody help me. And everybody's like, oh well, they must be having a little argument, that must be his wife, they're just having a nice family outing or something, it's so embarrassing, something like that. Like, it's really crazy. But
Yes, you hit the
yeah.
nail on the. And it's something I was talking about yesterday. It's a tactic of this regime. It's the tactic is to isolate the Iranian people. We know that the regime fears us and our voice more than anything. We are the voices that it can't censor. And so what it does is it isolates us. It tells the people inside Iran that nobody outside here cares about you. Nobody's coming to rescue you. We're victorious. There's nothing that can be done to get rid of us. And it tells the outside world everything is fine here. There's nothing to see. There's nothing to, and so it's a very suffocating and isolating experience. And it makes people feel like they can't defend us. It makes people feel like there's nothing to defend. And the video I made yesterday was regarding something else that it hides behind, which is this label of Islamophobia, which is ridiculous, right? Because in Iran there are a plethora of religions and faiths, and we have Muslims, we have Christians, Jews, Baha'is, Zoroastrians, and we love each other and we protect each other fiercely. In the January protest, people inside Iran would say that when we were fighting those bullets, we didn't look left, we didn't look right and ask the people beside us what faith they are, whether they're politically left or right. We just held each other's hands and we ran towards those bullets together, And the fact that the regime hides behind this label of Islamophobia is just so laughable, but it makes other people outside of the situation, in this woke culture that we're living in, it makes people not want to touch it because it's too politically risky. You know, they don't want to be tarnished with those labels. And so every single thing that the Islamic Republic does, every single tactic that it displays is to isolate us. And again, that is why we're so grateful when people see the reality for what it really is. And actually, I think that the world is waking up. Marco Rubio said to the world recently that he has never, ever come across a nation where its government was so separate and so different to the people that it rules.
Mm-hmm. I remember saying that. And also, see, that's another thing too. Like, that's one of the things that I try that gets me so kind of like angry and frustrated as well, is because, like, people don't want to touch it because, like you said, they see it as a political thing, and it's politics. But the problem is, though, that like. The problem is that every single time there seems to be a major issue about anything, civil rights, human rights, whatever it is, genocides, people being murdered unjustly, all these kind of subjects that happen time after time after time, and especially over the last decade, it's like every single time that any of that comes out, it's always turned into a political thing. Now, that's wrong in and of itself, right? And we understand, well, that shouldn't be done. Yeah, we understand that, and we wouldn't want it to be done that way either, but unfortunately, that's the way that it is. So because it's the way that it is, it almost feels like a cop out. It almost feels kind of cowardly to allow those labels to get you to not talk about it, because it feels like obviously the strategy is to make it political so that you won't speak about it. And that's why I get frustrated when people say, why are you so political? How come you're always talking about politics all of a sudden? Like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, that's not really what it is it? I'm just saying what's right and what's wrong. And because that subject is constantly made political, I don't run away from it just because it became a quote unquote political conversation point. And I feel like it's kind of cowardly if you do, because you're playing right into the hands of the wicked people who do that on purpose as a strategy to make it seem like, well, it's just politics as usual. It's always been Republican, Democrat, left and right. This is just a normal thing. Like, we're not talking about gas prices. We're talking about these tiny little subjects that are always been politics as usual. We're talking about full-blown genocides and religious persecution, people persecution, murder, all sorts of crazy things. Like, you can't just chalk it up to, well, it's just politics. Like, it's beyond that, where, you know, and it feels kind of cowardice. Like, in the beginning, when that started happening, I could see where people would be shied away from it. But after seeing it happen so many times, it's almost becoming like, I don't know that you're even unaware of that, or if that you're just trying not to be a part of anything. Like, it's a really interesting conversation.
Yes, and it's been one of the most frustrating things when you're trying to speak to the free world and say, look, this is what's happening to my people. And people will look at it through the lens of the left, or they'll look at it through the lens of the right. And, you know, let's just be human beings. You're looking at a nation that is being crushed and oppressed by a theocratic dictatorship. Anyone who goes against this regime is silenced, they're executed, you know, they are kidnapped, they are tortured, imprisoned, sham trials, you name it, this regime does it. At what point did this turn into a political matter? This is clearly, you know, when you're looking at what happened in January, these people rose up. They didn't say, we are Republicans, or we are left, and we're right, and we're rising up for this. No, they just want freedom. And over 40,000 people were massacred. Surely, at that point, the world drops its political bias and says, this is a humanitarian issue. You know, we really need to speak up for these people because their voices are being silenced constantly. So, yeah, I'd say that has been an extremely frustrating experience throughout this year. And I hope that people see it for what it really is. And in the States, it really bothers me as well, because it's like, these innocent people are constantly being used as pawns. You have had every president up until Trump tell you that this regime is dangerous, tell you that this regime has an apocalyptic view on the world and its hostility towards America. You have known that this regime is a threat for years upon years since the revolution. And, you know, with every single president, they've all told you that Iran is a threat. And now, since Trump has become into power, since Trump's been in power, it's kind of overshadowed the whole situation with Iran. I think that the way people feel towards Trump is kind of stronger. The dislike or even hate that they have towards Trump has overshadowed the real threat that the Islamic Republic poses, not just to the Iranian people, but to the free world. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, it's absolutely that. That's exactly what it is. That's the point too. Like every single president, all the way back to Carter, who's where it started. Even under Carter, the Islamic regime had kidnapped American soldiers and held them hostage for 444 days. So there hasn't been a point since it happened that the Islamic regime has not been a pain in the backside of the United States of America and the entire world. And that's what also gets me so frustrated. And it's like when people try to now all of a sudden, this is a Trump thing, like all of a sudden this was Trump's idea and not just his idea, but it was Israel's idea. And the real truth is that we just wanted to go to war on Bibi's behalf to take out the Islamic regime because he's the only one that gets anything out of it. Like, it's like, come on, like, where have you been for the last like 50 years? Every single president, even Obama, and I don't like Obama, but even Obama would admit out of his mouth at the time that this is a radical regime. Like this, that's why we have to talk to them in the first place. So this idea, like this short-term memory loss, like Dory from Finding Nemo, like you've all of a sudden just forgotten 50 years of history just because it's inconvenient at the time. And it's also inconvenient that there just happens to be a legitimate genocide that just took place a few months ago as well. And it is a Trump thing. It's exclusively because of Trump. But that right there is what's so insane to me too, because look, there's presidents that you don't like, whatever. I don't like Obama. If Obama was admitting to the world that like hundreds of thousands, I think it's over 100,000 people were slaughtered inside of this country, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, since Obama said it, like, then it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? That's insane to me. It's like, I don't care how you feel about Donald Trump, but you're taking it to a point where it's irrational. It's ridiculous hatred. You can't make an entire nation of people suffer just because you don't like the political position in power. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, Obama did do it. Obama went to war with Libya, didn't he? But no one likes to talk about that.
Yeah. Gaddafi. And there are people on the left wing that do understand that, like Fetterman has been speaking out a lot about how crazy it is and how the Iranian people should be free. And Bill Maher has been talking about that as well, too. So it's obvious that, you know, it's a choice that you're making. I'm not so sure how much it is. And it's not just the left wing, right? Because you have the quote unquote woke right. That all say the exact same talking points, like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and so on and so forth. So I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if it's a hatred for Trump or if it's a hatred for like Israel and the Jewish people, or if it's a correlation between the two, and now that extends to the Iranian people, because those are the two groups of people that have been talking and actually doing anything to inside of the revolution at all, or whatever that is.
Yes. Well, I think that the Iranian people, the freedom-seeking Iranian people, have been, you know, people think that there's this alliance, you know, that is more than what it is.
Mm.
The Iranian people do not agree with everything that Bibi Netanyahu does. They do not agree with every single thing that Donald Trump does. The point is that the same entity that wants to kill Americans, that wants to kill Israelis, and is killing Iranians, is the one that we have, is the only thing that we truly have in common, and it's the most important thing to focus on right now. You know, we have the same enemy, and that's what it is. And people really, I think that some people are so protected that they don't even know how protected they are. A lot of people are very, very ill-informed when it comes to the threat that the Islamic Republic poses. A lot of people that were defending Maduro when Trump took down Maduro are not aware that the Islamic Republic and Maduro were working hand in hand to build a base within America's backyard.
Yeah.
That's been a grave threat to America, and yet there are Americans who are opposing the elimination of that threat. There are Americans who are opposing the elimination of the Islamic Republic, who, since its conception, has vowed to destroy American society. And listen, they vowed to destroy Iranians and they vowed to destroy Israel too. So there is going to be a natural alliance there. But whatever you think of Trump, whatever you think of Israel, and whatever you think of Iranians, this is for the world's greater good. Eliminating this regime will only benefit the world. It will benefit all of us. Who wants more terrorism? Who wants more terror proxies? We just want to live and be free and be happy. Who wants their tax dollars spent on, if you want to talk about the tax dollars being spent on the war, think about the tax dollars being spent on preventing terror attack after terror attack after terror attack throughout this past 50 years. You just want to shake people almost and be like, wake up, regardless of what you think of the messenger, listen to the message.
Yeah.
The truth is that, the Islamic Republic is a very, very dark entity, and its elimination will be the best thing that happened to the world in decades.
Yeah, I agree with that too. That is true about Maduro as well, because we know that Hezbollah had people inside of Venezuela training and teaching the people and the cartels how to go to war with the USA. And also the Venezuelan people, just like the Iranian people, are happy that Maduro is gone. They're
chill the streets.
Yeah, exactly. And it's crazy. It's to align yourself with dictators because you're mad at somebody that you claim is a dictator. To me, that's crazy. I can't even wrap my mind around that. And the reason why, I feel like a lot of it.
There's people calling Trump a dictator.
Do what?
Do you mean people calling Trump a dictator?
Yeah, with the No Kings protests and all these kinds of things. And it's like, I mean, I can't, it's hard for me to believe that you believe that Trump is a dictator when there actually is one, and then you're fine with that. When you don't like the fact that a dictator is removed from power and another one is killed, it's hard for me to not believe there's some sort of, a little bit of it is fake outrage and a little bit of it is political theater, because you want to win arguments and elections, and that's the problem in and of itself. I believe that because people live in a first world, that they are under this, it's a delusion that they're almost so separated from other societies and other peoples that they don't realize that they are coming, like that's becoming extremely calloused. Like you're becoming very cold when we start to play poker chips and pawn chips with genocides of entire people. Like that's insane to me.
Yes, the oppression Olympics.
Yeah, really. And it really is that. And the people that actually are oppressed, people inside of Venezuela, people inside of Iran, like you don't even pay attention to them. You don't even mention them. And, I don't know. To me, that's really just crazy. I don't even know where to begin with that. But it's like, I feel like, too, at the same time, that the Islamophobia thing, like you said, that word came from the Muslim Brotherhood. It was literally coined by them, and we've proven that inside of their own files, inside of their own documents. And
Absolutely.
it's anybody who is not a Muslim, and even quote unquote Muslims that are opposed to the radicalness of jihadism, all of those people's lives are at threat to a jihadist. A jihadist sees anybody that doesn't agree with jihad as an infidel. Not just if you're not Muslim, but a lot of Muslims, sects, they consider a complete other sects as infidels as well too. But a jihad says if you're quote unquote moderate, right? Like the Islamic regime has come out talking about Saudi Arabia and Qatar and all of these countries. Well, you're mad at us because you're not real Islam. And that's what it really
Mm.
is. And you need to be taken out just the same way that non-Muslims are taken out, because you're standing in the way of us taking over the entire world and putting it under the banner of jihad. Like, that's a threat to everyone. If you are not a terrorist, if you don't believe yourself in murdering people in the name of Allah, then you are automatically a target for people who do. That is a universal truth. And the best way to take care of that right now, you are at a generational shift where you have the unbelievable ability geopolitically to completely shift and change things in a whole nother direction, with Europe almost completely under the banner of Islam, and Australia and Canada, and it's moving its way into America. You look at New York City, it's crazy. When you have all this happening, you have the worst, what I say is the worst radical Islamic regime in the Middle East right now, which is the Ayatollah, the IRGC, and in Iran. When you have the ability to take them out and completely shift geopolitical spheres for generations to come, and you couldn't have got a more perfect storm, because even the Middle East agrees with you. The Arab Muslim countries agree with you, and they've agreed to help you make it happen. You could not have asked for a more perfect opportunity. If you don't do it now, it's the only time. It's a straight shot. It's like a clear shot on the head of radical Islam.
Yes. And I don't think that people really understand what living under Sharia law and radical Islam is. I think that a lot of people mistake the nice lady wearing a hijab that's their neighbor with the lady that's part of the morality police in Tehran that's wearing the hijab, who arrest women and give them blows to the head and do all sorts with them inside prison. I think that people are looking at the Muslims in their communities and mistaking those for the same thing as these extremists within the IRGC, within Iran. But people have no idea what it's like living under these regimes. I wish they would listen, but yeah, I think it's just one of those things, unfortunately, where until you experience it for yourself, you'll never truly know. But it has devastated generations. It has devastated generations of our people. Even people who didn't live during the time of the revolution. Those stories are passed down, those experiences are passed down. So many of us had to flee, A lot of us fled. I myself fled as a 2-year-old with my mum. And you have to leave behind your family. You have to leave behind everything you own. You have to leave behind your culture. You're kind of ripped away from everything that you know, like a tree ripped from its roots, and we all carry these stories, and we will carry these stories with us forever. It's in our DNA. And when you're trying to relay these stories to people who may not know about it, and they deny your suffering or they're indifferent to your suffering, that has been one of the most isolating and insane experiences. But then I see it happen to other communities too. I see Venezuelans be silenced. I see Cubans be silenced, as well as Iranians. And like you said, I think it goes back to putting everything into putting, human pain into the box of politics, into different political boxes. I think that, in Albania, they're rising up now and they are protesting against Trump, I believe. And the whole world seems to be behind them. The media is behind them. The entire political left are behind them. I just wish that they would take a closer look at things that they don't understand and that don't necessarily align with their politics, and just see the reality for what it really is.
Yeah, I think that when you start to put your political ideology above truth, you have a problem there. Like the way that it should be is that truth decides your political ideology. And of course, you whatever, in a normal realm of politics, people will disagree on solutions. But even back in the day, people weren't disagreeing on problems, right? Both the Republicans and the Democrats saw the Soviet Union and said that's a problem. The same with Adolf Hitler, the same with all these various subjects throughout the years. It's not until recently where now the division is not based off of what the solution for the problem is, but what the problem is. Even with Obama, he said, okay, Iran is a problem, and the Republicans, everyone knew that. But then
Mhm.
where we completely disagreed was the way that he dealt with it. But now it's becoming Iran's not even a problem. They've never been a problem. We've been lied to about, like Candace Owens goes on TV and makes fun of the Iranian people and says, whoa, they're living under oppression. Like we're supposed to believe they're so oppressed. Like that is insane. Yeah, and I do not believe that you say something like that in good faith. I just don't
Yeah.
believe it. There's some kind of strange agenda going on there, and I'm not sure what it is. I don't see the total end game behind that, but there's something there that's not being seen. There's something a lot stranger going on there. And when she brings that blonde woman, Anna, whatever her name is, I can't even stand their name. I don't even know who she is. That crazy woman comes on there, and they're both talking about this insanity, and they're praising, in their own words, the propaganda of the IRGC. She literally calls it the propaganda, uses the word propaganda of the IRGC, and she says, it's been so wonderful. It's been so excellent. Their Lego videos are brilliant. They're beautiful. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, their Lego videos? Like, come on now. Like, it's ridiculous. It's almost comical. If it wasn't so dark, if it wasn't so calloused, it would be funny because it's almost a comedy to watch. Like you can't even make this stuff up. You can't believe this stuff is happening, but yet
But
it
isn't
is.
it dangerous that you are, someone with that, kind of audience, with that kind of reach? Isn't it dangerous to lure your audience in, um, so that they would fall for the propaganda of a regime that wants to destroy them?
Mm-hmm.
Is that not a strange thing to do? Is that not a strange notion?
It's very strange. It's very odd.
And these people say America first.
Exactly.
And they claim that Trump is not America first, yet they would lure their audience in to be kind of exploited by this
Mm-hmm.
sophisticated propaganda of a regime that wants to destroy their way of life.
Yeah.
I find that insane.
Yeah. I find
I
it
don't
very
know
strange.
what does it take to make a person do such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, and that's what the question is. That's where a lot of people who are aware to the fact that that is so weird are starting to ask themselves too, like, what is going on there? Like, there's something very dark, and I don't know what it is, but it'll come out eventually. But something very strange that is going on there, things behind the scenes that nobody sees that's going on. I don't know what it is, but I don't, I think the same way. I don't know what could possess a human being to do something like that. And these are geopolitical analysts, right? These are people that are in the political world and see what's
Mhm.
going on all the time. They know what the news media is like. They know what propaganda is like from either side, from any side, whatever. They understand the whole world of making things look one way when they're really another way. These are not people that have no clue what they're doing and have been living inside of a bunker and just found out the other day that there was a country called Iran. These are not those type of people. These are people that are aware of the world. So
Yeah.
it makes it that much stranger. And a lot of people think they've been paid off. I don't know. I don't know, because to me, even money seems like, at a point it's like, okay, but what's the point of that? There's a point where it's like money's not everything there is, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. I think it seems and another thing that this war that I think has been revealed is how deeply entrenched that the Iranian government is into the politics of the entire world. I was not aware of that.
Oh
Like, I
yeah.
saw them as a crazy bully network.
They're
And
very underestimated, aren't they? Very underestimated in
yeah,
terms.
yeah.
They know that they could never defeat countries like America or Israel um, with military strength, but for years they have worked on extending their tentacles throughout Europe, throughout the States, and they just pop up everywhere. They pop up in places that you would never imagine. Their network is
Mhm.
very sophisticated.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Their network is very sophisticated. Like, it's really odd. And I never saw that before. They are severely underestimated because
Mm.
as everything's been coming out, and that's another thing that I learned from talking to the Iranian diaspora and the people inside the country is when this whole thing first started, and I would hear them saying, they were like, you don't understand, like, if Iran isn't free, then it's a danger to the whole world. And I thought I knew what they meant at first because of nuclear weapons and Hezbollah, Hamas terrorism, and so on and so forth. And all that is true too. But as time has went on, the more I listen and the more I study and the more I look at it, I could tell there is a deeper thing to what they're saying there, because they genuinely feel this thing. And in my head, I'm like, why do they feel this way? But then as time goes on, I hear things and I see the things inside the country, and they tell me technology things and all these crazy things that the IRGC does and how it keeps track of people who have left the country that are inside the diaspora throughout the whole world and all these types of deals. And I realize they are severely underestimated. Like, when the Iranian people are saying this, they are not over exaggerating. Like, this is crazy. And then when you see the people caught in LA and inside of Canada that work for the IRGC, it's proof. And when you see that
Mhm.
woman reporter from British broadcasting clowns, that's what I call them. But when you see her talking about, she goes inside of the country and she's like, well, see, everything's fine here. I'm not wearing a hijab and everything's good and all this
Oh, yes.
propaganda. Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure you've heard Iranians call them the Ayatollah BBC.
Yeah. 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 It's like, you're,
Well, the BBC contributed, BBC propaganda contributed to the 1979 revolution.
that is so
They,
weird.
yes, they spread that propaganda. They spread the Islamic Republic's propaganda and pushed it out to the West. So then you had the entirety of the West looking at the Shah as though he was this monster.
Mhm.
And you know the saying, lies travel fast and the truth travels slowly.
Yeah.
So over years, although this has been factually debunked, there are a lot of people that still believe this, and it makes the Iranians furious, and they won't forgive the BBC. And the BBC still perpetuates narratives like this. They will still go into Iran and the BBC know that there's no free journalism in Iran. They
Mhm.
know that everything's scripted, but they don't expect, their audience doesn't know, and they don't explain this to their audience. There's
Mhm.
no, side note to say, this is what's happening. We were extremely limited. We could only speak to this many people. No, they go out there after a massacre of 40,000 people and they say, oh, it feels like a family festival.
Mhm.
Isn't that strange? I actually had, I was noticing that Channel 4 are currently in Tehran.
Mhm.
And gosh, this journalist sat down with a university professor, and the university professor was saying things that to the outside world might seem as rational. And he was saying, reform takes time. If we want to change the politics of this country, we have to wait. These things are gradual. And Channel 4 tells the world that he is a university professor, which he is. But this university professor has been screened by the Islamic Republic. In fact, anybody that they allow to be in front of the camera speaking to the rest of the world is screened and scripted. And this university professor was a 1979 revolutionary. He was trained by Palestinians. He was trained in guerrilla warfare. And he, to this day, he defends the 1979 revolution. He was in one of the Shah's prisons, and he was putting forth that Ghalibaf should be elected or should be in charge of Iran's affairs. Now, for a university professor to nominate Ghalibaf is just the most mind-blowing thing, because I don't know if you know about this guy, Josh, but he's the one who tied the hands and feet of university students and threw them off rooftops repeatedly until they died. And this was because they protested. So it's just mind-blowing. We put in loads of complaints to Channel 4 for that, but it's constant, and it has been constant. And at some point you have to say, where is journalistic integrity? Is that going to constantly be sacrificed for an exclusive story? And an exclusive story which is all basically a lie. It's a scripted lie.
Mhm.
And who holds that responsibility? Who pays for that? Who pays for that is the Iranian people, because what Channel 4 did there was they put across the regime's narrative and the regime's wish, which is that stall tactics. The regime constantly wants stall tactics. They want to wait until Trump is out of power because they know that nobody else is going to have the guts to take them out.
Yeah.
So they portray that as also the wish of the Iranian people, as the voice coming out from inside Iran.
Mhm.
That, oh yes, we should wait. These things take time. Iranians want this. Iranians want this to be a gradual process. I mean, millions of Iranians that were out in the streets tearing down Islamic Republic flags, throwing down monuments. I don't think that they wanted a gradual process. I think they were pretty
Exactly.
sick and were willing to sacrifice their lives to get rid of this regime. So at some point, journalists have to start being more responsible. And I don't know what that, I don't know what that means for journalists going into Iran. Are they going to keep going into Iran knowing that they're not going to get the truth? Or are they going to, what has to happen? Something has to give.
Yep. And I didn't know all that about the British broadcasting people. I didn't know that they were also there during the 79 revolution, perpetuating all that. So that really makes me like, who owns these people? Like, where does their funding come from? Like, who controls these people? Because that's just weird in and of itself. That is odd for you to perpetuate that, and then after all the years see what it's done and you still stand by it. That's more than shady. Like, there's something not right there. And with journalistic integrity
I
is
mean,
the same thing.
it's the British broadcast, it's the British Broadcasting Channel.
Yeah.
And Britain is one of the only countries now, I think it's the only country in Europe that still hasn't prescribed the IRGC as terrorists.
That is insane.
Yes, so it's like, why is Britain holding on to this regime so tight? Britain and
Mhm.
France, one of the main instigators of the 1979 revolution, and to this day, Britain and France seem to be protecting this dictatorship. And I guess we want to know why. What are they gaining from it? Who's benefiting?
That's really odd to me. Britain isn't even, they're not even Britain anymore. Like I don't know what you call that. They become a chaos cesspool of nonsense over there. I don't know what's going on. Like, I mean, the fact that they don't have a Muslim prime minister already is like really shocking to me. I'm very surprised that they still have a natural born, quote unquote, as it appears to be from the outside looking in, a natural born British citizen who is their prime minister. That's almost shocking in and of itself because
Well, the
the
mayor is Muslim. Mayor of London is a Muslim.
yeah, exactly. So like, and the head of their entire Homeland Security division is a Palestinian woman. Like it's crazy. And she wears hijabs to work. Like I don't understand. It's almost shocking that they don't have a Muslim prime minister. And I'm sure that if they ever get one, that all the people will cheer and say this is such a wonderful thing, and everybody in the entire country, it's crazy. Now, I don't know how that gets that far. Obviously, it seems to be to me that the British government tried to manipulate the Iranian government, the Islamic regime, for oil reasons and all this with Jimmy Carter and all these types of things. But it appears as if maybe they didn't realize that they were the ones that were being manipulated, even if they understood maybe how dark, and of course maybe not everybody inside of the government obviously, but whatever subsection was perpetuating that, it seems that they have underestimated that maybe they were the mouse and the Islamic regime was the cat, because Iran's not looking more English. England is looking more like Iran, and that's what is happening. And it's become almost completely dominated at this point. Even your royal family is too afraid to say anything against the Islamic regime in Iran.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but a couple of weeks after the January massacres happened, um, members of the British government were celebrating the 1979 revolution with members of the Islamic Republic in the Iranian embassy in London.
That is crazy.
At that point, they knew that they didn't know the sheer scale of the massacres, but they knew that it was upwards of thousands, and they knew that it was over 200 children also.
Mhm.
So British Iranians are really, we really want to get to the bottom of this. We want to find out why.
Yeah.
Why why would you break bread with such an entity days after they massacred their own people? Their own people.
Yeah.
Why have you not prescribed the IRGC? Did you know that the IRGC are responsible for over 20 terror threats on British soil in the last year alone?
Yeah.
But you never hear of that. And so why are they not prescribed? Why would you not want to protect your country?
Hmm.
Who are you? Do you not want to offend the regime? Is it all about oil? Does the price of oil come before the safety of your citizens? These are all valid questions that Iranians have to our government, British Iranians.
Yeah.
It's a question we've asked time and time again that are yet to be answered.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, but if you are dependent on the price of oil from Iran over the safety of your own country, then you are not the one that is pulling the strings. You are a victim, and they are the royal
Absolutely.
family over you. That's how that works. So,
Absolutely.
you know, like I've seen from the Iranian people, and the more that I look at this, the more I realize, to me, it looks almost like there is such a thing It feels like there is a radical jihad, almost a superpower. Nobody wants to admit it, but that's what it seems like, because you have the United States of America, and then you have China, who's coming up on that, obviously. And everybody thinks about these two, and you always have Russia in the back of your mind. But what it seems to be, people are not looking at the actual possibility of a jihad superpower. They're really not looking at that. And the reason why is because they see them spread across multiple countries and multiple governments. But underlying, there is a jihadist, uh, centralist idea that connects and interwoves with all these groups of people. Like, if the jihadist ideology is able to control England, well, then now they have nuclear weapons because they use England's nuclear weapons. All of Europe is coming underneath this banner. They have proven that there is an influence on a global level that rivals the exact same influence as the United States of America, as China. It rivals it. And if you don't, that's why, another reason why I think this war in Iran is so important. You have to take out, you've been on the defense for so long. This is the first offensive measure. You have to take it to their doorstep, because if you don't, there will be a radical Islamic Europe, and then it's what, the USA versus the entire world? Is that what happens at that point? Do you really want to get to a point where it's you versus everybody? That's not very wise. That's very stupid. So you're in a position where you have to, it's like this, it's almost like a weight that could go this direction or it could go that direction, and you have to make the right choice.
Yes. Do you know what I was thinking? I was thinking, what is going to happen now? It seems eerily quiet after Iran's attacks on Israel last night.
Yeah.
I know that there were some attacks back, but it's not at the scale that I imagined it would be. I thought it would be like, right, you've called on, you've ruined the ceasefire now. It's going to be all out war, but I'm not seeing that. And I really understand what this hesitation could be. It seemed to us, looking in, once the war started, that it was strategic. You know, they were taking out the heads, they were targeting bases, and it seemed to be on track. And then the ceasefire happened. And people were saying it's going to, you know, it will resume. We're trying to bring down the price of oil. Trump is, you know, it's like tactics to sort of keep the market stable. But now it's just, do you not find it eerily quiet, Josh?
Yeah, it's really strange. I'm not really sure what's going on at all, really. It's yeah, and that is a thing too, because after seeing them bomb Israel, and now, in that kind of a situation, there's no excuse of, well, we could just write that off as whatever it is, right? Like, you can't do that. So that's a total blown escalation. And it does seem, it just,
Well, they're doing that because they're very, very worried about losing Hezbollah. And I find it, this is what I find so comical, is that the world is so fixated on Israel possibly wanting to occupy Lebanon that it's not seeing what's, you know, clear as day, which is that Lebanon is occupied. The Lebanese government are telling you that they are occupied. The Lebanese people are telling you that we are occupied. The Iranian regime has occupied us through Hezbollah.
Yeah.
The fact that Iran's ceasefire is closely, you know, linked to Hezbollah is like they would put their entire country at risk to protect Hezbollah. They would, you know, have missiles fall upon the people of their nation before they let Hezbollah take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that just like bewildering how people don't see that? How people
Yeah.
don't see Islamic Republic as this, you know, as this imperialist state that it is.
How does and how does that not prove everything that Israel and Bibi Netanyahu has been saying for years? Because Israel keeps telling everybody, Hezbollah and Hamas are completely controlled by the Islamic regime in Iran. And everybody would they would used to say that's a conspiracy. They're just saying that because they want it to look like the government, blah, 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 blah. But now the government themselves says we won't even make a peace deal if they're not included. So why, if they're, it proves that Israel, they haven't made this up. There's not a
No,
conspiracy here.
same time, the Lebanese government is saying Iran needs to stay out of our affairs. We don't want Iran's involvement. We want to sit down and make peace with Israel. We want to sit down and we want to end this war. This war has nothing to do with us. It's the Iranian regime that is bringing this war to our doorstep and is responsible for the deaths of all of these Lebanese people. But people are still worried about Israel occupying Lebanon. Lebanon is occupied, and it's occupied by the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even remember not too long ago that Lebanon even said that they wanted to go to war with Hezbollah. They wanted to fight on behalf of Israel against Hezbollah. And now nobody's ever talking about that. And it really is annoying when I constantly hear the fact. It's like, well, Israel and Lebanon are at war with each other. No, it has nothing to do with Lebanon. Or this is a war between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government. No, it's a war between Hezbollah and Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon, funded by Iran. That's what is really happening, right? And it's like, I don't know. It's just crazy. So, what do you think is going to happen with like FIFA and the World Cup right now? Because this is all happening simultaneously alongside all of this. Like Iran's soccer team just landed in Mexico the same day, just yesterday, when these missiles got fired into Israel.
If you ask the majority of Iranians, they will say that they shouldn't even be playing in the World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
This football team doesn't, we would absolutely love to be able to, especially in this climate, we would love for this team to be the ones to unite us all. But this football team is not the team of the nation. This football team are the team of the Islamic Republic. They have made it very clear since January that they, and they are probably being coerced. There's probably a lot of coercion, a lot of threats, but nevertheless, they have raised the flag of the Islamic Republic and they have stood with that regime. They picked the regime over the Iranian people. Now, so the majority of Iranians, needless to say, will not be supporting this team. However, they will turn up to games. They will turn up to Iran versus any country, and they will take the flag of the Lion and Sun. I know Iranians. I know how creative they are. They will find a way. But it's sad. I mean, FIFA says it doesn't want to get involved in politics, but it is taking a side by saying that the nation's ancient flag cannot be flown. And we know that was probably a term put in place by the Islamic regime. Mm-hmm. So you are picking a side.
For sure.
But I know that we're creative enough to do it anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it too. When you say you're not picking a side and then you ban one flag, if you're not picking a side, why don't you ban both of the flags? Or if you're not picking a side, yeah. Or if you wouldn't ban any flag, let whoever show up do whatever. If you weren't picking a side, get this, is crazy, I know, you just wouldn't pick a side. Like,
if the regime wasn't so afraid of how it's seen on the world stage, it wouldn't have that in its terms anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's so favored by Iranians, it wouldn't need to have that as a clause. people would just turn up and flood stadiums with support of beloved regime. But of course, no one's going to do that because they're despised.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I think they are panicking. I think that they have spent so much money recently and so much time and resource on their public image. I think they're probably pretty scared of what the world's about to see at FIFA.
Yeah, it's a really strange occurrence the way this happened too, because I don't think anyone could have saw this coming. Like when the World Cup was being arranged and everything, nobody had any idea that this would be the result. It's almost poetic in a way. It's very strange. It's ironic because it's going to be there. They have games right here in the United States of America. Like that is very strange. I don't
Well,
have
that's
any clue.
grace. That's some grace the US has shown by even allowing for them to be there in their country,
Yeah, I don't
by
even know.
allowing them to raise their flag in their country, because you know very well that in Iran, if you raise the American flag, you could die for it.
Mm-hmm.
So why they, I mean, they've been shown this grace, and yeah, it's just I find it all very poetic that it's happening
Yeah.
at a time when the countries are at war with each other.
Yeah, you can't make it up really. And I don't even really want I don't know why we would even want their team here because if we're just being honest, like, yeah, I mean, come on, you really don't think that they're going to try to do something with that? You don't think the Islamic regime has people all throughout the government that just overnight became a soccer coordinator or whatever it may be, and now they're going to be on the bus with them coming into America? You don't think that that's a thing? Then you're crazy and you're out of your mind if you don't. They're going to use that as a Trojan horse to get inside of the country. Like, that's a very dangerous national security threat.
Well, what happened was that the players were given visas. The players were actually issued visas by the United States, but some members around their team, some coaches or, just extra people that they had with them, these shady characters that were suddenly, involved in soccer, they were not given visas. So, yeah, extensions of the team were not given visas, and therefore they all chose to fly to Mexico and train in Mexico. So they will be heavily escorted from Mexico into the stadiums. They can't even go for walks outside the stadiums. They will be heavily escorted all the way back to Mexico for each and every game, which is just so, shameful.
Yeah.
It's quite, in a way, it's like, okay, we've allowed you to come and play, but you're going to be treated like, like the terrorists that you are and that you support.
Yeah, exactly. And so, do you feel like, I'm sure that the soccer players, it's probably similar to the Australian women's team, right? Where they probably, for the most part, most of them probably don't even support the Islamic regime. But I mean, what are they going to do, right? You're inside the country. You love soccer. There's only one chance for you to be a soccer player, and that's through them. And your whole family is intertwined through it as well. They could be murdered at any second if you don't do exactly what they say. So, of course, you're going to play soccer. It helps your whole family because now the Islamic regime is a little bit less willing to kill you just because you represent them on a national scale. So I don't really know that I fault the players themselves because I could understand how crazy of a predicament that is. But I just find it's a very strange thing, though.
I mean, any athlete that represents the Islamic Republic is always under threat. There was a child chess player, and he was a chess phenomenon, and he was in the finals. He was abroad and he was in the finals. And as a child, he had to play an adult male from Israel. And he was told that he couldn't. But he didn't want to betray his sport. This is what he had worked. This is what he'd worked towards. And it's, any other country would be super proud of this child chess protege that was, made it to the finals. And he played that Israeli opponent, and because of that, he hasn't stepped foot in Iran since, and neither of his family. In fact, he said publicly that the moment I step foot inside Iran, I will be executed for playing that Israeli opponent at the finals.
That
So
is
there
insane.
there's an immense amount of pressure on anyone who represents this regime, and I do feel for them. I mean, you saw what happened with the female soccer players.
Yeah.
Remember what happened with them in Australia?
Yeah, they were they tried to get away, and some of them got away, and they were being chased through the streets by the people too. And some of them actually decided to go back, and people were like, well, see, it must not be so bad because they wanted to go. No, they just didn't want their families to be murdered.
Their
Yeah.
families were being threatened, and they were worried for their families. So, you know, I just can't. A regime that is so. Any other country in the world builds up their athletes, gives them an incredible life, is proud of them. Iranian athletes are meant to be a source of pride, but they too are used as political tools by this regime, as is anything, as is anything.
Yeah. How old was that child chess player? I never heard about that.
I don't remember. He was pretty young. I think he was below 12, but I'll put it out for you and I'll send it to you.
That is, why wouldn't you want him to play an Israeli? I mean, in your own mind, what if he wins? Wouldn't that give you some sort of propaganda against Jews? Because you had a child chess player win? Yeah, but you don't even think like that. It's like, you think that he's going to lose?
There was also a gymnast who was told that she had to perform with wearing a hijab, wearing a headscarf, and she was very young, and she decided not to. And she went back to Iran, and she was really persecuted for that, and her family were threatened, and the conditions were super hostile, and she had to flee. She fled, I believe she fled to the United States.
Yeah, it's horrific. So what is like your personal, whatever you can divulge about it, obviously because of details and everything. I was going to say, what's your personal story with the Islamic regime in Iran? How have you been personally affected by it and things like that?
Well, my mother was not in favor of the revolution. And my mum she has always been fiercely independent. She won't be told what to do by anyone, anywhere. She has a strong sense of identity. She is very strong-willed. And when the Islamic Republic came to power, it was very much, oppression overnight. And she would still go out without her headscarf. She'd go out, with designer sunglasses on, and they would imprison her, lash her, and it was constant for her. It was constant. And she says that they used to throw house parties post-revolution. They'd throw these secret underground house parties in people's basements. And she says, there were so many memories of these besieges, climbing through windows and taking everyone out of the party and throwing them in jail and lashing them, and or much worse. Once I was born, I think it just, bear in mind I was born during the Iran-Iraq War, the tail end of the Iran-Iraq War, and the conditions were hostile anyway. And in between the war and my mother being persecuted and the breakdown of her marriage, in Iran, if you're married, if you try to divorce, firstly, the husband can refuse the divorce, but secondly, he can also gain custody of the child. And my mum wasn't having that. So, yeah, she just didn't want those conditions for me growing up. She wanted me to be able to flourish. She wanted me to be the best that I could be, and she knew that an environment like that would just suffocate me. So we left in the middle of the night, and we said goodbye. I still remember the night we left, we said goodbye to our family. My mum's sister, my cousins were at the airport. I was only 2, but I remember it very vividly. I was holding on to them and crying. I knew that it was going to be the end, because once you leave, it's very, very hard to come back.
Yeah.
And yeah, we left. Um, and we didn't go, if I'd have stepped foot in that country, if I'd have come back into that country, I could have been given to my father, or, mum could have been further persecuted by the regime. It just wasn't possible to go back. So we fled. We ended up in the UK, but it was a very painful process. We didn't know anybody. We didn't have any family. We didn't have any friends. And we weren't able to go back. So in all these years, I was able to see my family maybe once or twice, before some of them passed away. Some of them, it's just, that's the way it was. That's the way it was. We just weren't allowed to go back. And it's very difficult for an Iranian to gain a visa to come and visit in the UK. It's a very long, drawn out process because there's so much migration. So my aunt was able to come once, and my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, was able to come once before she passed away. But I mean, my story is still very, very moderate compared to some of the others that you'll hear. People that were under imminent threat from this regime, people who had to flee, and can't go back. I mean, I couldn't go back now because I'd be executed. The fact that I'm advocating for a free Iran means that if I stepped foot in the country, that would be it. I'd be arrested. The next day I'd be executed. And in between arrest and execution would probably be something far worse than death. So, until this regime is no more, many of us can't go back to Iran.
Yeah. And that's another thing too. So I don't see how that the people that act like the IRGC is just hunky dory, whatever. The sheer vast of Iranians who have a story just like that, right? Like, you talk to them all the time, and it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other. You don't really hear any of them saying, "Oh yeah, everything was fine, and we just felt like immigrating for natural, normal reasons." Like, that's what it was. Like, you just don't hear that.
By the way, Josh, my own story that I've given you is an extremely, extremely watered down version of what happened, because obviously we still have family and friends inside Iran that need protecting. So, and at this time where there's a magnifying glass on everyone in the diaspora, we have to be very mindful and careful of the things we say and how they may affect those who are still trapped inside.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's the way that it is with all those other people that speak as well, right? Like, that's exactly what it is. And even with an extremely watered down version of it, it's still not normal. It's not natural. Even, yeah, it's like, and everybody, you don't.
It's normal to us.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I'm trying to prove. Like, when I talk to people, Iranians, when I talk to all these people, you could tell from an outsider looking in, you can tell that that's just the way that things go for Iranian people. It's just a normal way of life. So that is so abnormal to people that are not inside of that situation. It's not normal at all. And that's one of the best ways to prove, I believe, to the outside world that the oppression is real that's going on with these people. Because when you listen to them speak, they're just speaking from a normal, nonchalant, this is my life and this is what happened story. And it's obvious to anybody that's listening. It's like, it's obvious that that's just this is what happened the other day. You know, like if somebody here was talking about, I grew up and I went to kindergarten, blah blah blah. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And you
yes.
see it across the board too. It's not like it's not so 80 to 90% of all Iranians are just, they're just hypnotized in a story that never happened and never took place, and they're just making things up. Like, it's insane to believe that. Nobody believes that. Nobody does. You have to be a fool. You have to be stupid to believe that. That's why I don't respect people like
Oh,
Candace
there are a lot
Owens.
of stupid people out there, Josh. A lot of stupid people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horrific thing. It really is, because you can't hear that over and over and over and over and over again, because it's one after the other, one after the other.
It's
You
everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody.
exactly.
Everybody who's left Iran has a story, has a painful story.
Mhm.
Everybody who is in Iran, you know, we all have these stories intertwined in our DNA. And as you said, for us, it's just a normal Tuesday. But for anybody listening, you know, it's really quite traumatic stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we just learned, you know, it's this whole process. I have to say that before these January massacres, I was just a day to day mother of two, you know, working, living my life. Since January, and I feel like a lot of other people, a lot of other Iranians would be able to relate, it's like this intense trauma response to what's happened. It's so much trauma that we have buried over the years resurfacing because we all left Iran, right, under strange circumstances, under, you know, it's not normal. The way that we were torn away from everything that we were, everything we belonged to, you know, and we come to the West or wherever we may be, and we study hard, we're made to study hard, we contribute to society. You know, that's a big thing to us. We are successful in the things that we do. We are stand up members of society. But we've all buried this intense trauma that we've been carrying it around for years, and something happened in January. I think it just erupted out of every single one of us, and we said no more. You know, we can't keep living with this. We have to confront it. And I think that that's why we are all so passionately confronting this entity that took our childhoods away. Not only did it take away our childhoods, it took away our parents' parenthoods, because our parents were first generation immigrants who were processing trauma in countries where they were complete strangers to the language, to the culture, to everything. And instead of having their support systems around them and being able to focus on raising these beautiful children that they'd been given, they were in constant survival mode. So that's the way they've lived their lives. You've lived with a parent who has been in constant survival mode, and you've inherited their trauma as well as living through your own version of what happened, you know.
Yeah.
And this process has really just, as I said, brought everything to the surface, and there's no turning back. You know, I know there are hundreds of thousands of Iranians now in the diaspora who are still going backwards and forwards, seeing their families, seeing their country, you know, when they could. There are hundreds of thousands of us that said no more. And we will accept the fact that we won't see our families again. We accept the fact that we won't feel Iran's soil beneath our feet until that country's free. Because there is now a sea of blood between us and this regime, and there is absolutely no turning back. I, for one, you know, I'm content with that. Until Reza Pahlavi is back in that country and we're waving our lion and sun flag and there's freedom for everybody, I won't stop.
Yeah. And it's a very inspiring thing to watch and witness as well. You know, you're watching it in real time too. it's obviously you have to tell everybody what's going on, but watching it like an outsider looking in, it's a very inspiring thing to see the Iranian people fight so hard for their country and for their people, because that's really what the human spirit is actually made of, whether people want to realize that or not. And I think that the Iranian people right now have shown extreme, they've shown more than anyone on the planet right at this point, have shown the fiery passion of freedom that's inside of the human spirit, like a resilience that will not give up or give in or surrender until it's free. And that's the best of people. That is what everything in human history is entitled into, that thing right there. That's the thing that motivates human history as a whole. And seeing the Iranian people where they are right now, they're proving to the world. It's almost like a proof, because with like far left wokeism right now, there seems to be this narrative that that people never really were fighting for anything super free. It never really was about freedom. There was always these things we never saw. It's almost like they're trying to take away like the greatness that's inside of people. It's really weird. But
Right.
yeah, but when you look at the Iranian people, you don't, it's the proof. It's right there in your face. Like, you're recognizing exactly what you would have seen at the American Revolution, what you would have seen at any point in time in human history where people were willing to die instead of live as slaves to a tyrannical regime. You're witnessing it happen in real time. So that's another reason why I think there's such a divide, because I really do, at the end of the day, I think it's almost like a spiritual thing. Like, you have those who are on the side of true greatness, because to me that's true greatness. That's not something that can be emulated or faked or feigned or anything like that. That's what the depth of greatness, that's what it's really inside of it. And then you have people that are just not very great at all. And that's the way that I see it. That's the way that I really believe that it is. And that's it's a mesmerizing thing to watch. The people go back into the streets, and now you see inside of the colleges again, they're starting up protests. But
Can't stop it.
yeah, at the same time, it's a beautiful thing to watch too. Uh, to see that they will not give up. Like, that's a beautiful resilience thing that gives a lot of hope to people in
Mhm.
the rest of the world too. And Iranians, I don't think maybe are sure, probably not even aware of that, because they're so hyper focused, as they should be, on what's going on in the revolution inside the country. But I don't even think that they realize that they are actually giving hope to the rest of the world as well, to Australians and Canadians and Europeans and Americans that also are trying to fight against what is coming to be a tyrannical regime in their own countries. When they look at the Iranian people and they refuse to give in and give up, and they keep raising up the line and some flag, and they're so fiery and passionate, and the Iranian diaspora as well, it actually glimmers hope into their own worlds as well, when they see that there is a non-negotiable, we will be free, and people that
Mm.
are willing to fight, that exists deep inside of human beings. I think that's a message that is really resonating on a transcendent scale, whether the Iranian people realize that or not.
I don't think they realize it, but I think once they are able to stop and catch their breath and reflect one day, I think that history will probably look at them in that way.
Yeah, I think after they're free, that they will really understand beautifully after they're free, and all of the people that are in power right now are judged, put on trial, whatever you want to say. All that has to be, it has to be dealt with. Once that, on the other side of that light, I think that the Iranian people will be surprised to see how much they actually inspired the rest of the world as well to go and take their own countries back from this constant push for tyranny, because it's truly a beautiful, it's a beautiful thing to watch them not give up in a situation where, you know, logically from the outside looking in, you would see every reason for people to say, well, if anyone was ever going to quit, that's when they would do it. But these people don't do that. They do the exact opposite. They're right in your face about it. It's beautiful, powerful resilience and resistance. And that's why I keep trying to tell the Iranian people, I'm like, yeah, and they know this already anyways, but it's like, you guys are a very strong, resilient, fiery lion like people. Like, it's like a legal royal priesthood in a way. It's like a Cyrus type of a thing. And I know that they will be free because they push so hard. It's a non-negotiable. There will be a time where the entire thing is overthrown. And that's another thing too, because I think people also have to they have to remember and stay in hope, because when you look at before Trump and Netanyahu bombed the Ayatollah, before all that happened, the Iranian people took over every single province. There were cities throughout the entire country. They're burning statues, like you were saying. They're burning all these things to the ground, mosques. There's millions of people in the streets, and you're able to do that when the Iranian government was operating at 100% full capacity.
Absolutely.
If you're capable of doing that after everything that has fallen and happened to them, I find it almost impossible to believe that the Iranian people will not be free eventually in some no matter
They
how
know
it
that
happens.
they know that they can do it. It's really frustrating sometimes to hear people. It's not even, it's a constant question that I'm being asked. So why don't they rise up? Why don't they rise up again and take their country back? And it's like, as Trump put it, these people are very brave, but they're not stupid, you know. And we saw what happened. We saw that the regime is willing. You know, we used to say if millions rose up, we could really take this regime. What we underestimated was how many of us they would be willing to kill in order to stay in power. And now we know that that number is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
But once the message is clear from the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, from Trump, and from Netanyahu, once that message is clear, once it's not so wishy-washy, and there are assurances that there are powers that will have their back, they will be straight back onto those streets, and this time they will take over. There's absolutely no way that an armed and protected population will not topple this regime.
Exactly. That's 100% the point too, because that's what I'm trying to get across to people that are not Iranian, that are looking from the outside looking in, that ask that question as well, because I hear that, well, how come they just don't want to? And yeah, you people, you're not paying attention. You're not even listening to what people are saying right now. Like, it was discussed and it was spoken by all three of those people, Reza, Pahlavi, Bibi Netanyahu, and Trump, that intentionally messaged to the people inside of the country and told them, wait a second while we do all of this. And then when that is done, rise up and do what you have to do. So for people to ask that question, it's stupid really in and of itself, because it just shows that you haven't been paying attention. It's not the people inside of the country are, well, they just don't have the will to fight anymore. All these crazy things. It's that they are...
Well, maybe they changed their mind. Maybe since the US Israel attacked, maybe they suddenly all got collective amnesia and forgot about the massacre of their friends and their family in the tens of thousands just in January, by the way.
Yeah, that right there is so insane to me, because that is a political narrative that you constantly hear, and it agitates me more than anything else. There's this idea that the people inside of Iran, and it comes from not properly defining the fact that the Iranian people do not consider themselves, 80% of them are not even Muslim, okay? And even the 20% that are Muslim, a lot of them completely outrightly reject this Islamic regime. The
Oh,
idea,
of course they do. Of course they do.
yeah,
There were
exactly.
Muslims. There were Muslim grandmothers wearing headscarves that were protesting in the streets in January.
Yeah,
This revolution is not based on religion or left or right. This revolution is based on a common hatred for this despicable regime and the willingness to be rid of it at any cost.
yeah, exactly. So it's like this idea that I've heard from Rand Paul and other people like that, who say, well, the problem is that just like all these other quote unquote regime changes that have happened in the past, is that now that you're attacking the country, the people will see it as an outside invading force taking over control of their country. And it's like, no, because the problem there is that every single one of those times in the past, and I've said this before, I don't think the problem is that they did that. I think the problem is they didn't go far enough. They weren't aggressive enough, and that's really why they created these. People talk about these power voids and all these things. Really, that's a result of you not finishing the job. You came in and you halfway did it and you didn't do it all the way. Secondly, I don't even think that you really wanted to do it, to be honest. It feels like there was more of a manipulative thing that's now coming out. We don't even trust all the presidents that were president before Trump was president, don't even know what they were really up to. And then on the other hand of that, the people inside of Iran have their own culture. They're their own people. They have their own language. There is nothing that is intertwined with that group of people that is intertwined with Islam. It just doesn't exist. And that is a major factor that plays a role, because it's very hard to radicalize non-Arab people with the idea that it's Arabs versus the rest of the world, because that's really what radical Islam is built on. It's the sons of Ishmael, the Arabic people versus everybody else, and that's what it really is. Now, there of course are many Arabs who don't pertain to that and don't believe that, but the point is, when you're trying to indoctrinate a population, when
Mm.
you're saying it's you versus everybody, it's a lot harder to do that with someone that's not Arab in the first place. It's like trying to convince somebody that's not German to become a Nazi. Like it's a lot more difficult, because this doesn't even have anything to do with me. And for that reason, what they don't understand is that the people inside of the country, their national identity, their identity as a people, is not tied into that. So it's not, let's get rid of this. Oh no, now it's an attack on all of us because they're attacking this force. And now let's replace it with another one. It's, we are opposed to this force. And when you're attacking them, we don't see that as you attacking us. We see that as you helping us attack what we're trying to attack to restore who we are, right?
Yeah. See the difference. I mean, the difference between these operations, say in Iraq or Afghanistan, and Iran, is that with Iran, this is a grassroots revolution. It's millions of people in the streets saying, we want change, we want an end to the regime. It's not, we protest the price of bread, it's, we want freedom. And it's millions of Iranians inside the country, a country across every province. The other difference is that Iran's identity is not centered around religion. It's we're nationalists. And our national identity to us is sacred because of its vast history. We take immense pride in that. Something that the regime have done is that they have constantly tried to dismantle that since their inception. They've always said this country needs to be Islamic before Iranian. We will burn Iran down. The regime themselves have said, we will burn Iran down so that the flames of Islam may burn. Now, that doesn't quite work on a very nationalistic people.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
there came a change, though. We're also very, very proud of our country, and we don't like to see it harmed. We don't want anybody injured. We take pride in our monuments, in our infrastructure, absolutely. In fact, before this very war, even Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi had stated that, you know, foreign intrusion may cause people to rally around their flag, may cause people to be overprotective of their soil. However, the 12-day war with Israel showed us some key things. One, it made people think, actually, it may be possible that there are people outside of our country who are willing to stand up to this regime. Another thing that it showed Iranians was that Israel didn't want to kill them. The strikes were very, very targeted, very, very precise, as in, they would target a particular apartment out of an apartment block. Mm-hmm. And that kind of made them less scared of a possible Israeli-American war on the Islamic Republic. And then, of course, the protests happened, and they watched thousands of their compatriots be murdered in cold blood in front of them, right? Imagine how helpless you would feel against military-grade weapons. You're out in the streets and there's machine guns and bullets. And then, by the way, after the protests are over, they're shooting people in hospitals or they're arresting them and executing them. There is not a single sane person in Iran that would rally around the flag. Now, we rally around each other. Our infrastructure is our people, and we don't care about the possible risks. It's beyond that. It's beyond worrying about whether this person wants a bit of our oil or this person wants a bit of our gas. We haven't been benefiting from any of these things for decades anyway. Our most valuable resource is our people. And we know that unless this regime is taken out, people will continue to suffer. And now we know that they are willing to kill every single one of us. The priority is to get them out.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think it was something like 100,000 Germans actually joined the States in fighting the Nazi regime, was it not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They weren't called traitors to their land or traitors to their soil. They fought for the future and for the freedom of their country.
Exactly.
And it paid off. And that's exactly what Iranians will do. There are so many within the army, probably within the IRGC itself, that will deflect. They're just waiting for a clear signal. They're not going to do it while things are up in the air, when there are mixed messages coming out of, it's going to be the end of the regime. Oh, no, it's not. We're going to negotiate. Under those circumstances, of course, they're not going to deflect. It's not worth it. And it's not the time. But once it happens, I think the world will finally see how badly the Iranian people want to be rid of this regime. And by the way, it will benefit the entire world. All of these countries now, people don't realize how far the tentacles of the Islamic Republic reach. We've discussed it all the way into Europe, into Australia, into other parts of the Middle East. The Yemenis are suffering, the Lebanese are suffering. So many people in this world are suffering because of this regime. And once the United States, Israel, and the Iranian people cut the head off this snake, the world will be thanking us. Believe me.
Yeah. For sure. It's like you said with the 100,000 Germans, it's out of their national identity and their pride of being German that they wanted to get rid of Adolf Hitler. Like Operation Valkyrie is a good example of that. With the people inside of Iran, it's the same thing. It's out of a pride of who they are that they want to get rid of the Islamic regime, because they see them as an outside invasive force that really brings shame to the Iranian people and the land, because they have destroyed the reputation of who and what Iran is really about. And I think that's exactly what it is. And like what you said with Prince Reza Pahlavi, that's exactly what it is. It's at his word. It really is, because the Iranian people, they've already chosen their leader. I haven't talked to a single person so far that has mentioned any other name except Reza Pahlavi, it's been almost unanimous across the board, and the only time it's not is when it's a radical jihadist bot that's defending the regime.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and so when people say, well, why haven't they? I promise you, it's at the word of that man. If that
Yes.
man says tomorrow that the people should rise up, then they will. They do. They're taking direct orders from that man specifically. So if you
Yeah,
want to
because
know,
we trust him.
you said what?
Because we trust him.
Yeah, exactly. So if you want to know what the Iranian people are going to do or what their plan is, ask him, because he really does make the decision for that. He's the one that makes those calls. Now, he's obviously strategically right now watching what happens with Trump and Netanyahu and how everything goes before he decides what direction they need to go. That's just wisdom. That's common sense. That's what you would do and should do in that situation. But once all of that is completed, it will be at the word of that guy right there, how everything goes on from that point forward.
Absolutely.
So is there, like, what else would you want everybody to know about everything that's going on?
I just think that the Iranian people deserve support going through this. I think that, certain circles that have maybe turned their back on our movement for freedom is, it seems nonsensical to me. There are people in liberal circles who are fighting for exactly the same things as those people on the streets in January. They are liberals. They want to be liberated from a tyrannical regime. They want women's rights. They want rights for the LGBTQ community. They want equal pay. They want to just be able to breathe under this patriarchy and under this theocracy. They want for religious minorities to not be persecuted. And I really think that if people genuinely opened their eyes and their ears to what is happening, they would find a lot in common with the people of Iran, and they would see the issue for what it really is, which is a humanitarian one and not at all a political one.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think too. It's like these people are literally fighting for the same exact thing that every single liberal, quote unquote, has ever said that they fight for. This is like JFK's Democratic Party, right? Like that's literally what they're fighting for. Like it makes perfect sense to me. I don't see any difference between the two. And they like you said with religious minorities, they're not fighting to have a theocracy of some other kind or any other country or anything like that. They want a secular democracy. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of misinterpretation in what Iranians are fighting for. I think everybody thinks that we want a monarchy and this monarchy could be another dictatorship. That's not true. There are many people in Iran who do want a constitutional monarchy. It's our right because it's been part of our history for millennia. And it's a great source of pride. And the Pahlavi dynasty is a great source of pride for the Persian people. But first and foremost, and something that every Iranian that is anti-regime is united by, whether you're left, whether you're right, whether you're a monarchist or a Republican, what everyone is united by is that Reza Pahlavi is the transitional leader of this revolution. There is a plan in place called the Iran Prosperity Project. This avoids any power vacuums. There is a transitional leader who is able to unify a nation, and that is what you need in order to be able to avoid that danger of the power vacuum, which we've seen go wrong with Iraq, with Afghanistan, etc. So there is somebody in place that is unifying the country. Millions of Iranians chanted his name during the January protests. His name was written on the walls. The Lion and Sun flag was raised, and there wasn't a single person who called anybody else's name during that uprising, which tells you a lot. The entire diaspora back Reza Pahlavi. Now, the Iran Prosperity Project highlights an intricate plan for Iran's transition from this dictatorship all the way through to the ballot box to a free and secular democracy. And that really is the focus of every Iranian. And really, like, if you think about it, there shouldn't be a single person in the world, unless you are anti-freedom, that shouldn't be supportive of this plan and shouldn't be standing hand to hand with the Iranian people on that path to democracy.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It feels like now the divide has become democracy versus tyranny. That seems to be what the real divide is. People, that's how I see it. I mean, really, it's you're
That's what it is. It's as black and white as that. Democracy versus pick a side.
Yeah.
There is no neutral.
Exactly.
There is no neutral. You either stand with Iranians and their fight for freedom, or you stand with their murderers, and it's as simple as that.
It is as simple as that too. And that's why you get so infuriated when you see people that try to deny the atrocities that have happened inside of the country. And that's just what happened in January. Now, all the atrocities that have happened for decades now, it makes absolutely no sense at all whatsoever. And I feel like, too, I'm just having a really hard time understanding, like, back to like Candace Owens and that Anna woman and Tucker Carlson. I don't understand what is going on inside of the minds of these people. Like, it's just crazy. And I don't believe them when they tell me that they think that Iran is one of the most liberal places in the entire Middle East.
They don't believe it. It takes a quick Google search. Firstly, I mean, Israel is the only country in the Middle East that allows gay marriage, right? It is. I mean, yes, like them or hate them, Israel is the freest country in the region. That's a fact.
Yeah.
You used to be able to have gay marriage in Iran at the time of the Shah, which was very progressive for, the 60s, 50s, 60s. Could you have gay marriage? Was gay marriage legal in the United States?
No way. Gay marriage just became legal in the United States like less than 10 years ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago. Yeah, it's very new. It's very fresh.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, I had no idea that.
Shah, there was one of his close friends was gay, and they had a public gay marriage during the time of the Shah.
No idea that there was that was going on all the way back in the 70s or 60s anywhere in the world. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Was a very liberal country, and the people of Iran are extremely liberal. And when the regime wants to show itself as liberal, it will go out into the streets and it will record the people of Iran. And of course, they're liberal people. They're freedom-seeking, freedom-loving people. And our culture is free. We're anti-racist. We are very, very tolerant. We're tolerant of every ethnic group, of every religion. And so, yes, the people of Iran are very liberal, but do not compare, do not compare the people of Iran to the regime, because it just takes a quick Google search and you'll see that since the revolution, you say you're gay and you're executed, you're publicly executed. If you are raped by a man, you could be executed. Did you know that, Josh?
Yeah, it's insane.
Did you hear about that 16-year-old girl who was executed for being raped, for allowing for to be raped?
Yeah. I've heard many stories like that. It's crazy.
You could be imprisoned for. There's a girl in prison now Ahu, her name is, and she is in prison now for putting a heart, for typing a heart emoji under under a post online of Khamenei being killed.
Yeah.
She typed in a heart emoji, and now she's in jail, and nobody's heard from her for months. Like, please tell me, like, how on earth could you describe this country as liberal?
Yeah. It's
And
like,
why would you do it?
yeah, that's
Why
the
would
real
you describe
question.
this?
Yeah. Why would you do that? Because like, yeah, like people being executed for being raped. Yeah, I've heard I know all about all of that. How crazy the atrocities are. Or I mean, it's almost to the point where it's so horrific that you almost don't even like to talk about it all the time because it's so bad that you almost have to like give yourself some fresh air to really take in normal life for a second and be like, yeah, that's not normal. You know what I mean?
It's tough to talk about it constantly, right? It
Yeah.
starts to permeate through osmosis.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Mm.
like, I guess it's kind of like, it's almost like, where they say that homicide detectives or like SVU detectives or whatever, they have to take a break sometimes because they're seeing so much insanity that you can't
Mhm.
let it like mess with your mind a little bit, like so the atrocities go on and on and on and on and on and on. Basically, if you could imagine it inside of your mind, they do it. If it's a every horrible thing that you've ever seen or heard done on a horror movie or anything
Mhm.
else, this regime does it. 100%. And they do it just as gruesome and just as brutal, and they don't think about it twice. It's really truly insanity. It is the closest thing to a real life like, a horror movie, to a real life like like Jigsaw, like that there is. It really is. Like, and that's why I don't understand when people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and these people. I'm trying to figure out why you would say that. What's the motivation behind
Yes,
that?
exactly. Let's cut the crap and tell us what the intention is behind this constant narrative that you're trying to push and like force down people's throats that Iran is this liberal free country and no oppression is going on there whatsoever. Like, what is your intention with trying
Yeah.
to do that? What are you trying to do?
Yeah. And you never said that 10 years ago. You've had all the opportunity in the world to say these things. And now, all of a sudden, when the war is happening, now we've come to this fresh revelation that these things are true. Like, what is
Yes, they
that?
weren't saying that a few years ago during the woman life freedom movement. Every celebrity and like every single person had woman life freedom on their posts, and they were at protests with Iran. No one spoke out then and said, "Hey, nothing bad is happening to the
Hmm.
Iranian women." Why now?
Yeah. And that really makes me, it really infuriates me because and I have to control my anger sometimes when I hear stuff like that because it just shows you how it's very despicable. I don't There's not even really great words that you could say about that. I don't understand how a human being, what has to be going on inside of a human being's mind and their being to be able to do that, like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, because I've watched these people for a long time and I know what they're all about and I know who they are and I have a psychological profile on them. And so when I see them doing that, to me, there's no excuse for it. There's absolutely no excuse. I know I'm not dealing with a bunch of dummies who have no idea what's going on in the world and they're just being introduced into world affairs and they could be easily deceived and they're not so sure what's going on. Like, you're dealing with very highly intelligent, calculated, shrewd people, and for them to go ahead and make that type of a choice in a situation right now, it shows that they're morally bankrupt. It feels like they're amoral people. And what I'm trying to figure out is what So what changed? What switched? What's the motivation behind that? You didn't hate Trump for the last 10 years. So like
That's
it doesn't feel like it could just be Trump hatred. You could chalk it up to Israel and Jew hatred and anti-Semitism if you want to go that route. I can see why a lot of people would. The Jews and the Israelis would definitely agree with that, and they would take that route. But it seems a little insane to me that even just
something deep about this.
yeah, that even something just being mad about the Jews or Israel or even Netanyahu, even going that route, it seems a little ridiculous to be able to completely dismiss entire genocides on innocent people. It's a human civil rights activist morality issue, and I feel like there is something deeper there. I'm not sure what it is. I think it'll come out to the light, but I can't help but feel like there's got to be something going on way deeper there that we just don't see.
Yeah, possibly. Let's see. The truth shall prevail.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that was a lot to say, but that's really that I just had to say it like the way that I felt it.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean on Tucker Carlson or in
Yeah,
general?
yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, these are questions that people should be asking. Why are these people downright lying about something so despicable and, as you put it, morally bankrupt? Like, what could we need to be asking these questions. Why are they protecting a regime that slaughters its own people and poses a huge threat to the free world? Why would you be doing it? What could be worth this prostitution of the soul?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it is that heavy too. It is the weight of what you just said. The prostitution of the soul. That's exactly what it is. Like it's I'm trying to figure out whether if it's pro Islamic regime or anti something else. Like is it that you admire them or you're against something that they're against?
I mean, they are all against Israel. That's true. They are all very much against Israel. Is it this like want to like this agenda to want to dismantle American society and the way, the setup of American society? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's a question in and of itself too. Is it you're trying to help orchestrate a chaotic disruption of American society, and that's really what's so strange to me too, because I watched Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens tell the whole world that the Democrat Party has become the Communist Party of the United States, and they are destroying American culture and society in real time. And
Which
that,
they are.
yeah, and that is true. And they said, do not, when Joe Biden came around, they both actively said the election is rigged. Donald Trump really won it. They want you to all hail the Democratic Party. This is a coup. It's a takeover. They're very outspoken about these things and warning the whole world. Now you see them interviewing people like Hunter Biden and acting like everything is fine. I'm like,
Yeah.
something just does not correlate here. Something is not right. You don't go from these people are trying to destroy America to I now trust them more than the person that I said that. What? Like, I mean, it doesn't even feel like it's a logical leap. It doesn't feel like a natural step.
No, it's not. It's not. Something has definitely been a catalyst for this sudden change.
Yeah. And they will claim, as they do over and over, that it's Israel and it's the Jews and it's October 7th. And this is what has made them come to this major realization. But to me, I have a hard time believing that. I have a really hard time believing that because why would one? I mean, it's the Jew hatred thing too. It's this
I mean,
tiny.
if the intention is genuine, then you don't need to lie. Do you see what I
Exactly.
you don't need to, if it's just because, right, you hate Israel, you don't like what they're doing, and that's genuine, you then why do you don't need to then lie about the oppression of 90 million people.
Yeah.
There's something ingenuous going on when you're telling blatant lies to that scale.
Yeah. 100%. And that's, see, exactly that. That's the point that I'm trying to get to. It's that if you really believed these conspiracies that you perpetuate about the Jewish people and Bibi Netanyahu and Israel trying to control the US government and trying to create this Zionistic New World Order regime and all these kind of crazy things, if you really believe that, and this was your motivation, I'm going to righteously stop them from stopping the United States of America from being told what to do and being taken over by this New World Order, then you would not need to lie about complete genocides of a totally different group of people that are not even involved in either one of these countries. They're their whole
Exactly.
own other group over there.
Exactly. So the entire aim isn't Israel. Israel may be part of the bigger picture, but it's not the entire picture.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to get to. Something very dark has to be going on there because because I don't do that. Like, I think that the Democrat Party is the Communist Party, but I don't lie about them. I tell the truth about them. They just happen to do some crazy things, and so, there's some very negative things that are said there. But I don't make up things out of thin air. I don't say that they're doing something that they're not, or the Russian government, or even any government.
No,
I
because
just
the
tell the
truth
truth.
defends itself. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's just that the truth is the IRGC is murdering their own people. That is happening. The Democrat Party is acting like it's not a big deal, and now the half of the right wing is acting like it's not a big deal either. So, it's crazy
Or denying
reality.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Mm,
really insane.
yeah.
Eh, Like, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Not Without My Daughter with
Yes, I've seen parts of that, but I was very, very young. I must rewatch it.
yeah, it was a really, really good movie based on a true story written by
Mm.
a woman, an American woman who married an Iranian immigrant, and he was a Muslim, radical Muslim. He came here and he didn't act radical while he was in the United States of America. And true story. And then she married him, and then he wanted to go on vacation to Iran, and she agreed to go because he acted like a totally normal person. And then when they got there, he decided, along with his family, that they were going to live there for the rest of their lives and they were never returning to the USA, and there's nothing that she could do about it. And then he began to punch her in the face, and he became very abusive and everything that you see under radical Sharia law. And because she was a woman and she was married to him, she had no rights inside of the country. And it's a very good movie. And he basically, after like years, tells her, well, you can leave, but your daughter has to stay. And she said, well, not without my daughter. And that's where the name of it comes from. She winds up escaping. And when she got back to America through an underground railroad inside of the country, then she wrote her life story and they turned it into a movie. At that time, like, it's a critically acclaimed movie. Like, it's, if I'm not mistaken, it won an Oscar. The world knew all that. That's decades old movie. The world knew
Yeah.
what was going on inside of that
Yeah.
country decades ago. This is not some new narrative that is sprung up
Didn't
out of
know
thin air.
it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard for me to think, why do you think the people are dumb? Like, you think the American people are stupid? You think that they're just going to forget that we've been talking about this country for 50 years? Like, we're just going to forget everything that's happened from Jimmy Carter up until this point?
Well, I think a lot of their audience, the people who are buying into this, are or are becoming somewhat anti-American. So they're all like, they're waiting for these conspiracies because they're like, we've been lied to the entire time.
Hmm.
The regime are actually the good guys. Maybe we're the bad guys. I think a lot of that is happening, which
Uh-huh.
is like frustrating as as someone involved, as someone involved in the crux of the situation to be observing. It's like, why are you turning inward?
Mm-hmm.
You've known the truth for all this time. Why are you turning inward? And why are these influencers, should I say, causing you to turn inwards? What's the deal here?
Mm-hmm. And do you think a lot of that has to do with the Islamic regime themselves? Like, in true reality, their plan to propagandize the world with Islamophobia and things like that, this was all really a part of their plan. I mean, it really is exactly what they said they were going to do. It seems to be
Yeah,
manifesting.
I mean, I would say partly them, and a huge chunk of it probably Qatar.
Yeah, I think Qatar has a lot to do with it.
They're all intact.
Yeah, I just found out that Qatar gives more money to American universities than any other group in the entire world. I didn't know that. Like, I knew that they funded it, but I didn't know they were number one.
And British universities, to the point where if you are an Emirati, you are not allowed to come and study at British universities because the Emirati government believes that you have a higher chance of being radicalized in British
Really?
universities. Yes.
That is insane.
Isn't it?
And,
Yeah.
and nobody talks about that.
No, because it falls under the umbrella of tolerance, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Nobody wants to believe they're being brainwashed, Josh. Nobody wants to believe they're being brainwashed, and nobody realizes it until you are on the other side of it, until you have been brainwashed and you've come out of it, or, or ever, or until the script is flipped on you and you're like, hang on a second, Unfortunately, it's like an abusive relationship. You don't quite know what you're getting into until you're cornered and it's too late.
Yeah, that's what it is, isn't it? It's like dealing with like a narcissistic sociopath or something like that.
Absolutely.
And
I have to go on the school run. I don't want to cut this short, but I have to get on
it's
this.
all good.
So.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple more things real quick.
Absolutely.
I'll just ask this question. One of them is, since you're in Britain, correct?
Yes.
So I was going to ask, first of all, why do you think that Qatar is all of a sudden aligning against the Islamic regime when they're all intertwined with each other? And the second thing would be, being in Britain, do you feel a sense of like, I don't want to say fear, but like threatened in any kind of way, shape, or form from the government for being so outspoken about the things that you are?
Well, firstly, I don't really see any tangible evidence that Qatar is aligning against the Islamic Republic. I think that there have been some words exchanged, but you have to remember that the oil reserve that is shared between Iran and Qatar, I mean, Qatar gets a disproportionate amount of that gas reserve. Qatar gets a disproportionate amount of that in return for its allegiance and loyalty to the Islamic Republic. So I think there is an estimated, currently in that gas reserve, there's something like $14 trillion worth of gas. And Qatar doesn't really have any other industry other than that. That is the entire source of Qatar's income. So, a free Iran would still share the reserve with them, but it would be an equal amount. So they're set to lose a lot by Iran being free. So I doubt that Qatar will be aligning against the Islamic Republic any day soon, unless they don't see any other choice. I think anything else, anything that we're seeing is sort of more performative than anything else, personally.
Yeah. And
do I feel unsafe in the UK? I would feel a lot safer in the UK if the United Kingdom, if the government would prescribe the IRGC. I don't know why they haven't done so. They have attacked not only diaspora Iranians, they've attacked the Jewish community. They have planned 20 terror plots just last year. So, I don't know what is stopping them from doing that. We would feel a lot safer as British Iranians if we felt that the UK government gave a damn. I don't feel that they do. And I feel that this wishy-washy behavior kind of emboldens the kind of sleeper cells of this regime. So yeah, there's always a danger, but we're not really afraid of we're not really afraid of danger. We've stood up to the regime many a time. We will stand up to them in any part of the world. At the end of the day, this isn't Iran. We're not living in a theocracy. We're not living under a dictatorship. We all have rights, and they will be arrested and they will be tried. That's the difference.
Yeah.
A lot of them are getting deported from the US, right?
Yeah.
I wish we had that kind of policy over here. I wish terrorists from the UK would be deported, if I'm honest with you. But yeah, of course, you always feel, I won't lie to you, Josh, you always do feel a bit unsafe. Every time you speak out against this regime, you feel unsafe because they're all over the state TV saying, we will find you, we will kill you, we will cut off your heads, we will target your families. They've always said this, and it has intensified now.
Yeah.
But as I said, we've got to a point where it's too late to turn back.
Yeah.
They can't get us all.
Yeah. It's just that I also worry about the British government too, because I've heard that it is getting crazy there. Like, you have to have a license to watch cable. Is that true?
Oh, you've always needed a TV license. Well, no one really pays their TV license in the UK. Don't tell anyone. Yeah, that comes from the BBC. So the BBC don't run ads. In the UK, it's they don't run ads on the radio or on TV or anything like that. They get their money from a TV license. So everybody who owns a TV is meant to pay a TV license, but a lot of people just say that they don't own a TV.
Yeah.
And they don't license because, once upon a time they had to, because the BBC was like one of the only channels, but nowadays there's streaming devices, there are apps left, right and center,
Yeah. Well,
But that's been a thing.
Yeah. Okay, well, I guess I'll let you go now. If there's any kind of final things that you wanted to say at all, you could go ahead and do that.
I think we've said it. Yeah, I think. It was a great conversation, though. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you
It's been
coming
my
on.
first
Maybe
podcast.
you said what?
I said thanks for being my first ever podcast.
Yeah, it was
It's been really good exposure therapy.
yeah, I appreciate you being so open and being so courageous and being able to talk about everything and coming on. Maybe in the future, after everything's free or everything, maybe you'll be able to come on again sometime or whatever. But it was awesome having you. I'll let you go now.
Thank you for having me. Thanks. We'll speak online.
All right.
Later. Bye. Have a good day.
You too.